Hi, my name's Ron, and today we're down in the Gold Coast for the Clean Waterways program. Behind me here we have one of two sediment basins down at Pacific Pines. These sediment basins have been installed when the subdivisions were constructed many years ago. These sediment basins have filled totally to the top with weeds, reeds and other materials that have been washed down in the floods. Were once deemed inaccessible, but with the introduction of the amphibious construction machinery that we have here, similar to the He King 150, the necessary remediation of these areas are not only now feasible, but also very cost effective. Well, here we are, fellas. We've got the He King 150. We've just gave it a quick workout down here in one of these sediment basins, and a few things that I'd love to report on. One is, as you can see, the size of the machine. It only weighs 15 tonne, and it sits about 1.4 metres from the ground to top of tracks. Therefore, when this machine's operational in the water, the ideal water depth is around about 1.4. You can get away with 1.5, although you can traverse the machine across open water to any depth, provided that you're perfectly balanced. And I've found that in deep water with this machine, if you enter the water on a gradual gradient into the water, bring all your boom and dipper arm and bucket back to the cab, gradually edge your way in, it'll pop up and away you go. It's the propulsion is purely by the tracks themselves, which are comprised of only two hydraulic drive motors, which are positioned at the back. I find they're pretty small considering the size of the machine. Well, as you can see here, the difference between the amphibious excavator and a conventional excavator are the buoyancy tanks. Here we have two buoyancy pontoons. They are in 3 cells, and the box section here, which forms part of the tracks, is of course they're hollow, and they also add to the buoyancy of the vessel. One of the issues I find with this little machine is, although it only weighs 15 tonne, the height from ground level to the top of the tracks here, at being at 1.4 metres, it's extremely difficult to access. I noticed that at the front of the machine there are a few scallops in these tanks which enable you to sort of get some footing to get onto it. There is nowhere to hold on to though, and at times when, if you're in the water and you sort of get back to the shore and you can only access in reverse, there's nowhere to get on and off. So what I found is that while I'm on land, I've actually had to use the bucket as part of my position so that I can egress or exit the machine. It's extremely difficult. What we have with this amphibious excavator is that we have adjustable tracks. They're all run hydraulically from one lever in the cab. The hydraulic rams positioned just underneath the machine here. And when we retract it, we can bring this machine into just under the 3.5 metre width. Therefore, once we've got the machine on a spread float and under the 3.5 metre width, we don't have to have an escort. So that saves in transportation costs significantly. Now when we have a look at the retractable tracks, we can actually extend these tracks by another 500 mil each side, so it gives us an extra metre. At 3.5 metres retracted, we can push that lever, spread these tracks just before we get into the lake. It gives us better buoyancy, and these spread out to 4.5 metres. Some of the technical aspects of the machine is that when the machine is sitting on the ground and we'll extend our boom dipper arm bucket, we have an 8.7 metre reach. When we dig, we have, so it claims in the spec sheet, that we can dig 4.7 metres at a vertical depth. Now, if we're in the water and we're trying to dig 4.7 metres, we'd still have to be on ground level at this point, so that'd be fairly steep down here. The only way that I would suggest that if you ever got into that position, or even into positions where you need to dig over the back of the machine, understanding that the hydraulic track motor hoses are all flexible because we retract the tracks, that if you were digging at that depth and you brought the excavator bucket up through the centre, you run the risk of pulling these hoses off. And once you pull the hose off here, you don't have any propulsion in the water. So extremely important that we either retract the tracks to a point that the bucket cannot come up through the frame, or only dig over the front. The layout of the cabin of the He King 150 is excellent. The vision for the operator in this machine is absolutely brilliant. The only thing that I would suggest though is that if you buy one, or if you have any amphibious excavator, is to tint the windows. Make sure you've got plenty of sunscreen on, because the reflective glare and the reflective burn off the water when you are on the lake for any point of time, it is really difficult to handle. One of the other things is that the machine is Chinese built, and if you pick it up from the wharf, you'll find that everything's in Chinese. So you will need to go through your spec book, your operator's manual, and you will have to punch in through your digital dash and convert everything over to English, and there is a code in there to do that. The machine comes with AM/FM radio, a brilliant air conditioner, and as I said, seat adjustment, controls, very, very responsive, a lovely little machine. One of the things that I like to discuss are our track plates. As you can see, and I've explained before, they're hollow and they all form part of the buoyancy for the vessel. However, they are prone to denting and being bent. Now, when we're in a waterway similar to the one that we were just in, and you find that you're in rock or unstable rocky ground, this is what happens. You have dents, bends all occur in these little track plates. Now, when the machine is out of water, if you've heard of a duck out of water, well, that's what this machine is. When we get out of water, this machine is extremely difficult to manoeuvre. It's a matter of pulling with your dipper arm, flicking with your bucket, operate the slew, everything you need to do to manoeuvre this machine to get it positioned. When you're on a level ground and it's quite stable, the machine works fine. But if you need to walk it uphill, or if you need to manoeuvre it in tight spots, extremely difficult. A few things that I find quite pleasing with the machine is that I do really like these 1.3, 1.4 metre wide tracks. This gives us plenty of stability and buoyancy, and I love that. Each one of these, of course, when we're in the water and we're in deep water, is part of a paddle, and we get all of this water, this area, surface area here, flicking against the water, and it's quite reasonable. We get travel at quite a good speed. Some of the other amphibious excavators will only have a small track running straight down the centre, and therefore they don't have this basically paddle arrangement, and they have to actually install two small propellers, one on each side, which is operated from the cab, of course, and that's their form of propulsion through the water. With that in mind, of course, this makes it very cost effective. This machine, for the price out of China and imported into Australia, understanding that we don't have a distributor in Australia, this machine is very cost effective. Overall, just as a little bit of a wrap up with this machine, I'd like to say that I'm pretty impressed with it. You know, the cost of it has definitely got a lot to do with it. You're not up there with the big boys, but this machine is quite suitable for these sorts of projects. I would like to thank the Gold Coast City Council for the opportunity to be able to utilise one of their sediment basins and lakes so that we could conduct this survey and review of this machine today. I'd like to thank them very much.